a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
This meeting is called to order. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for the delay in starting. We had to adjust our timer a little bit. Welcome to our board meeting today. I'm Dale Lair, President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please be advised there will be no recording of this meeting by any individual. If you would be so kind as to take your phone out or any electronic devices and check to ensure that you have them on the silent mode. Now I'd like to introduce our timekeeper, parliamentarian, and management personnel. Our timekeeper, Tracy Bussenberger. Parliamentarian is Ray Chernecki.
Morning.
Management staff, Bill Cook, our general manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Woodprude, Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds. Jolynn Higgins, Communication and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Marsha Johnson, up at the stage, our Corporate Executive Coordinator. Teresa Serino, up in the booth, Director of Events and Entertainment. I'd also like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Carla Young, audiovisual engineers, as well as Mike Diermeyer, Director of Bowling, and Polly Corsino, Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager. Thank you. First order of business is a roll call of the voting members by Secretary Linevsky and quorum confirmation.
President Lair.
Present.
Vice President Agee. Treasurer Akins.
Morning.
I'm here. I'm Secretary Linevsky. Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director Fimmel.
Good morning.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Wilson.
I'm here, and Merry Christmas.
It's 8 people who are here, so we have a quorum.
Secretary Linevsky, would you please read some of the comments that we put together regarding conduct of the board?
Certainly. To accomplish the business of this meeting of the Board of Directors, the chair reminds you of certain rules of debate and discussion stated in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in Section 43. A member must be recognized by the chair before he or she may speak. Members cannot address one another directly. All remarks must be addressed through the chair. Every member has the right to speak to every debatable motion subject only to general limitations of debate established by parliamentary law and the rules of this body. Robert's Rules, 12th edition, 43-3, page 366. After the maker of a motion has the opportunity to speak in debate, if he or she so chooses, other members may seek to be recognized by the chair to claim the floor for purposes of debate. No member can speak more than twice to the same motion on the same day. However, a member cannot make a second speech on the same question until every member who desires to speak on it has an opportunity to do so. That's Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, 43-12, page 368. Thank you.
Okay. When speaking, a member must avoid speaking about personalities. Discussion may be only directed toward pending question, whether the measure should be adopted or should fail. A member cannot reflect adversely on any prior act of the society that is not pending. Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, 4324, page 372. If any member objects, a member has the right to read from any paper or book as part of his or her speech. If an objection is made, permission to the assembly is required for the member to read from any paper or book. Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, 4326, page 373. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward with approval of the minutes. The minutes of the November 17th, 2022 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections, additions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are accepted and approved. Treasurer's report. The next item of business is the Treasurer's report. Are there any questions regarding the Treasurer's report?
Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Director Nowakowski.
General Manager, we're in the financial report, it says that the net operating budget excludes projects is $1.838 million favorable to budget. Does that mean we're favorable to not withdrawing any funds out of carry forward, or is that just favorable to the budget? Because we were expecting to draw a little over $1 million from carry forward for this year. So I think a little more explanation is needed.
Madam Chair, Board of Directors, Director Nowakowski, I believe this is the Treasurer's report that we're trying to approve, and I believe you're referring to the management report.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right.
So if you want to hold that until
that's
then,
fine.
sure.
Are there any other questions regarding the Treasurer's report? Okay, hearing none. Management report. Are there any questions regarding the management report?
Same question.
The chair now recognizes Director Nowakowski.
Madam President, Board of Directors, the question is whether we're taking money from carry forward this year.
No, we're saying that we are $1.8 million favorable to budget.
Correct.
What does that mean?
That means our net excess year-to-date is 1.8 favorable to the budget. We're still generating almost $3 million net excess for the year actuals. So we will not be needing to take anything out of carry forward this year to balance the budget.
Okay, so what that means is we're running $3 million over 1.8 over budget, or $3 million over budget, 1.8 favorable.
No. 1.8 over budget.
Favorable.
Correct. So if you look at the income statement that was circulated, if you look at the net excess line before depreciation, year-to-date we're 3.5 million generating net excess. The budget for year-to-date this year is 1.8. That's where 1.7 favorable to the budget, but we're generating 3.5 million net excess in actuality.
So we're 1.8 million.
Favorable to budget.
Totally favorable.
To budget. Net excess, actual net excess year-to-date is 3.5 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Chair, Secretary Lineski, you have the floor.
Director McCurdy, I just have a couple questions. Could you clarify what you mean by 3.5 and the 1.8?
Sure.
What's the difference?
So the actual net excess that we have generated year-to-date is 3.5 million. We had budgeted at this point in time to have generated a net excess of 1.8.
Okay.
So we're very favorable to budget year-to-date at the end of November with our net excess.
Okay. And where does that money, is that money being used for next year's budget already in there?
The net excess, after we've paid for all of our capital projects, Anything that's left over would be added to carry forward. If we spent more in capital projects than we generated in our net excess, then we would have to take that difference from carry forward.
I'm going to have some further questions when we actually get to the budget, attempt to approve the budget this year.
For 2023?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'll wait for that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions regarding the management report? Okay. Hearing no further questions, the management report is filed. Thank you, General Manager Cook, for the management report. Next item is committee reports. Are there any questions regarding the long-range planning report? Long-range planning committee report. Any questions? Comments?
Yeah, I have a couple comments.
Secretary Lineski, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes.
Well, we made basically a one-page report about some of the accomplishments and some of the things that the Long Range Planning Committee did. I'm speaking now as chair of the Long Range Planning Committee. And some of the things that they were interested in was the ASU survey, which they're happy is going forward. Looking into some grants, and I understand that there's a major grant had been granted this year. Equipment modernization, which this board approved, and they want to use a scorecard. What they want to work on next year is talk about having membership meetings that are not basically run by the board, but run by the membership, not to discuss current issues, but things that people might want in 10 or 15 years. They want to review the mission statement, make it very simple, but possibly put it on a lot of documents. They've noted that COVID reduced a lot of the activities here, and they want to look into whether or not there are things that can be done to bring people back and re-involve them. And there's a trend now that people are working longer, and that not everybody in Sun City who's moving in or who's here now is retired. So they want to look at the potential for expanded activities for those individuals as well as others, and also possibly the working hours of at least some of the recreational centers. That's the report I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other? By way of information, I would just like to remind the members of the Long Range Planning Committee of their charter under Article 10, Section 1, letter H, that they're supposed to be looking down, future-wise, so just for information purposes. All right, installation of our new directors. The election results have been finalized, and 3 candidates elected are John Fast, Steve Collins, and Jean Totten. I would like to ask, thank you. I would like to ask the directors-elect to stand and come to the front of the stage. Oh, okay. Members of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen, and directors-elect, on behalf of the RCSC Board of Directors, I congratulate you on your election to the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors. By electing you, John Fast, Steve Collins, Jean Totten, the RCSC members have placed their trust in your leadership, expertise, and judgment. We gratefully acknowledge your willingness to accept the responsibility of conducting the affairs of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated for the next 3 years, commencing January 1st, 2023. During your board tenure, you will be required to serve numerous varying and conflicting interests. Know from the start that you will never satisfy all those interests despite your best efforts. Do your best and be content knowing confidently that you are helping all of us to be proud of Sun City. I'd like to now give you the oath. It's in 3 sections, and I would like you to answer I do if you agree. Directors-elect, do you pledge to follow the law which imposes fiduciary responsibilities to ensure that power is exercised conscientiously? Its fiduciary duty requires board members to act in the best interest and for the benefit of the corporation. This fiduciary duty has 2 components: to act within the board authority and to apply the business judgment rule. The business judgment rule additionally requires board members to exercise 2 more fiduciary duties: the duty of care and the duty of undivided loyalty. Do you so pledge? Very good. Thank you. The next item is, do you pledge to uphold the corporation's articles of incorporation and the corporation's bylaws and board policies? Do you pledge to uphold the mission, vision, and values of the Recreation Centers of Sun City? On behalf of all of us, I wish you success in this undertaking. You guys can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations. Stay here. Okay. I'm going to now move on to the presentation of board plaques to outgoing board members. So, Darla, if you please come down. Mr. Egg is not able to be here today. One of his sister had a heart attack, and so there's a lot of family things going on. So we'll do it after the fact. Okay. I am honored today to present 3 outgoing board members with plaques in recognition of their service to RCSC. Our outgoing candidates or board members are Steve Collins and Darla Akins, and as I mentioned before, Mike Egge as well. Darla was elected in 2020 to a 3-year term to serve as director. She also worked as secretary and treasurer. Darla has served as chair of the Club Organization Committee, COC, and Lawn Bowling. She was the co-chair of Outreach and Communication, Bowling, Insurance, Finance, and Budget Committee. Darla was on the Investment Commission and served as a liaison for the Sun City Homeowners Association, Roads and Safety. Darla has also served as president and vice president of the Sun City Foundation Board. Somewhere? Okay. There you go, Darla. And just stay here for a second. Oops, sorry. I know I'm kind of going off script here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and read Mike's tribute. Mike Egge was elected in 2020 to a 3-year term and served as director and vice president. Mike also served as the chair of the Outreach and Communications Committee, Communications Through Technology, and the Sun City in Focus, formerly Outreach and Communications. Mike has served as co-chair of the Long Range Planning, Club Organization Committee, the Technology Committee. He has been chair and co-chair of the Properties Committee. Mike was on the Viewpoint Lake Management Board, also on the Bid Commission, and served as a liaison for the Sun City Fire Department. Mike also served as the director of the Sun City Foundation. Steve Collins was elected in 2021 to a 2-year term and served as director. Steve served as co-chair of the Club Organizations Committee, COC, Insurance, Lawn Bowling, Properties, and Golf Advisory Committee. Steve also served as a liaison to the Sun City Fire Department and the Sun City Posse. I am honored to present Darla, Steve, Mike will get his later, a plaque for appreciation on behalf of the RCSC Board. Okay. Yes, okay. Thank you. You can go back to your seats. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. On to unfinished business. Order of the day, motion to rescind. At the board meeting on November 17th, a motion was made by Vice President Ege, seconded by Secretary Lineski, to rescind the vote on a motion to approve the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the 2023 budget at the October 27th meeting of the Board of Directors. This motion was then postponed to a time certain of this, the next meeting of the RCSC Board of Directors.
Madam President,
But
point of order.
state your point.
The motion to rescind is illegal because the motion was defeated in October. That's why in November, when it was brought up to rescind, I said no, because you cannot bring back a motion that was defeated for rescind.
No. I'm sorry, the point is not well taken. Can I just finish with my explanation, please? And then you can decide if you want to appeal the motion? Okay, thank you. By way of information, the chair received information from a member, Mr. Tom Marone, who stated his opinion that rescinding the vote of the October 27th, 2022 meeting, motion to approve the 2023 budget still falls back to Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 35-2, Section 2. The original motion was to approve the proposed budget, but since the motion to approve failed, there isn't anything to rescind. Section 35, paragraph 2, subsection 2 of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, which is referred to by Mr. Marone, states that the motion to rescind can be applied to anything, for example, bylaw, rule, policy, decision, or choice, which has continuing force and effect and which was made or created at any time or times as the result of the adoption of one or more motions. The word adoption is emphasized in the book. That is an opinion or point made, and the vote on the motion to approve the budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the 2023 budget at the October 27th meeting of the Board of Directors, which failed, cannot be rescinded. Several other points stand out in this matter. However, first, nowhere does Roberts state that a motion to rescind a vote on a previous motion that failed cannot be raised. Second, Roberts states at 26-2, an objection to consideration of the motion can be raised only before there has been a debate on the motion to rescind. The vote, therefore, consideration of the motion has begun and it's too late to object. Third, the vote on the original motion to approve the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the 2023 budget was not in the affirmative. Its effect, however, the result of the board's vote, amounts to the board's direction to the Budget and Finance Committees take action or do something which is submitted to submit a proposed 2023 budget, which the Budget and Finance Committee recommends be adopted. Thus, there is something to rescind. The motion to rescind the vote equates to rescinding the board's direction to the committee to compose the 2023 budget for the Board of Directors to adopt. The current motion to rescind that vote, or what translates into a resulting order of the Board of Directors for the committee to create a 2023 budget, is clearly something that the board can rescind. It has been moved and seconded to rescind the vote on the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase in the annual property assessment to $525.
Madam President.
Director Collins, you have the floor.
Thank you. A motion can be rescinded if it was in the affirmative, not if it was not. 6.26-27, 37.3, and 3710. Now, if we go forward with this motion, it is an illegal motion, which then could cause us to adopt an illegal budget, which then, I had the floor.
I've already ruled on it, so your point of order, yes.
I challenge the ruling of the chair.
So you appeal the rule of the chair?
Yep.
Okay. There has been a motion.
I want to finish what I was saying.
Not yet. You've got to follow the rules. Okay, there's been.
Well, there's nothing to debate right now.
Well, we have to make he's going to make a motion to appeal.
He did. The appeal is on the
Does it have
floor.
to be seconded?
You have to state it first before anybody can talk.
Okay. So there's been a motion to appeal the decision of the chair regarding the point of order. Is there a second? There is a second by Director McAdam.
Now, the chair gets to speak first.
Okay. I have already researched this along with the parliamentarian to go over this because I did get, an email from Mr. Marone regarding this issue. And after research, I've given you multiple reasons why rule is in order.
Can I speak?
Now
Now you can take debate.
now we'll take debate. Director
Okay.
Collins.
I believe, like I said, I believe this is an illegal motion. If we continue, we could pass the budget illegally. We can pass this budget legally if we do it the right way, and when there is a way to do that today. But this is not correct, and if this would actually, our fiduciary duty would be in challenge because the residents, we could be opening ourselves up to a class action suit if the residents decided that you were raising their rec fees on an illegal motion. That is why I'm asking that we do this the correct way.
I'm sorry, Secretary Linetsky?
Madam Chair, may I ask Director Collins a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you may.
Director Collins, I'm perplexed. If we can't vote on this budget by rescinding it, and you say there's a correct way to pass the budget, what is it?
No.
You are not a voting member? Sir, you're out of order.
I'm going to get you out of this mess.
Sir? Sir, no, please, we have to.
Bend the rule prevents him from bringing the same motion back in the same session.
No.
Bend that rule, you can do it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm lost.
He's asking a question.
He's asking a question of,
Director Collins.
Yes. One way we could do this is we can suspend the rule that a motion has to have the waiting time limit on the agenda. Then we could make a new motion and we could pass the budget.
Secretary Linetsky.
Madam Chair, I have a question of the parliamentarian. Sorry. Which is the better way to go, or does it matter?
You have to say that.
The chair recognizes the parliamentarian for ruling. Thank you.
Yell.
I think you're on.
Oh, am I on? Yes. Madam Chair, Secretary Linetsky, it's not appropriate for a parliamentarian to say to the body Which is better?
I'll withdraw my question.
Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Director Nowakowski.
We're sitting here arguing about how to proceed with this when I think our purpose is to pass a working budget in some manner or fashion through the process, whatever that process is. There's got to be a way of passing the budget without arguing about Robert's Rules of Order. I think we're going through a whole process, and I don't think half of us, I don't understand the full process. There's got to be a way. There's got to be some methodology within our bylaws and within Robert's Rules of Order that we can come through and pass a budget. Our purpose is to pass a budget, not argue about Robert's Rules of Order. I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion? All right. We've spent some time talking about who's correct with the Robert's Rules of Order and how we're going to do this. My recommendation is that we move forward with the motion.
Now, it's the motion.
Madam President?
Motion.
You got to vote on it.
We have to vote on the motion to appeal. So is there, do I need a second for that?
They already did.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's right, Director McAdams. Okay, so there is a motion to appeal the decision of the chair. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Madam Chair, I have a question, quick question. A vote yes is to sustain the chair's ruling?
A vote in the affirmative would be to sustain.
Okay. Vice President Agee is not here. Treasurer Akins.
Okay. Clarification. It seems to me like it's the exact opposite. So the motion is to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Correct.
So a positive vote means what?
An affirmative vote sustains the order of the chair.
Okay, so to the appeal motion,
The question on an appeal is, should the order of the chair be sustained?
thank you for the clarification.
Now, does that make sense?
Yes, I understand now.
Treasurer Akins.
No. What'd you say? I'm not sure what we're supposed to be appealing.
As I understand it.
Okay, let me just clarify. Okay.
You guys are
There was
all over the place.
All right, there was a ruling by the chair, which was appealed by and seconded by Director Collins.
Because you said
So we're now going to vote on my ruling. A vote in the affirmative would be to move forward. A negative vote would be that the motion was out of order, okay?
Right, yes,
Or ruling was out of order.
Okay. Treasurer Akins.
yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Director Nowakowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Winter.
Yes.
It's 5-3 in favor.
Does the motion pass? Motion with 5 in favor, 3 opposed, the motion passes. All right, it has been moved and seconded to rescind the vote on the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve a 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes the increase of an annual property assessment of $525. Discussion on the motion. I'm sorry, I saw her hat, I thought you had your hand up.
Audience?
I'm happy.
Audience?
I have
You have 2 people that want to.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that. Okay, apparently people signed up to speak to this, and I don't have it in my motions because it was a committee recommendation and a motion to rescind, but I will allow it. So I'm sorry.
Susan Hedlund.
I did not have that in my head. I really thought I had somebody's arm up.
Good morning. My name is Sue Hetland. My number is 152399. I have been the vice president of Bell Center Ceramics for the last year and a half. The reason I'm here to speak to you is I know that Bell Center Ceramics has been the last car on the train for improvements. I also know that Fairway has been improved, but Fairway and Bell Ceramics, although we both do ceramics, we're not related. We don't benefit from those improvements. Although our club was built in 1976, and as you can imagine, there are infrastructure problems that we're experiencing. Most have not been to such a degree that it would cause concern. That is until last October. In October, we had a double fluorescent light fixture literally fall from our ceiling and crash to the floor. Luckily, that happened in the PM hours, but it is in our showroom. So that's what happens when things aren't upgraded from 1976. And that's what brought me here today to talk to the board and say the importance for this is beyond aesthetics. We're now talking about safety. That's all I have for the board. I hope you will support the budget for the improvements at Bell Center Ceramics. Oh, and let me tell you this too. You know, I heard earlier about the numbers. Our numbers are flying off the charts. We have 118 members in this club, and just last Friday, 3 people wandered in. I couldn't sign them up fast enough, so hopefully that is going to show an improvement after the COVID drought, membership drought. But we have an exciting club, and it's mostly made up of new members, and I fully support the club, and I love it, and so I hope that you will consider this when you're considering the budget for 2023. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Jean Totten.
Is it in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but they want to throw it out and give it to the vintage vehicles. And they want to spend all the cash on hand.
Okay.
Not raise the rates, it's just been a savings.
Jean Totten, 148753. Excuse me. The last 3 or 4 weeks, I have had the pleasure of standing in front of Lakeview, Recreation Center, greeting members either as they were arriving to pay their assessment or coming to ask a question, or brand new members coming to pick up their cards. Like I said, snowbirds, year-round folks, people that don't look old enough to me to be here, people that are obviously old enough to be here, people who have never voted, people who have voted every year, people who had no idea we should vote. Everyone, when I explained the best I could about the budget and what I knew, everyone asked, why is the board doing this? Why are you raising the assessment figure? We were closed down all of COVID time. I just heard that we're extremely favorable to budget, if I understood that correctly. We have the most money in our coffers right now than we've ever had in the history of Sun City. I understand we need a budget to go forward, but I don't think this is it. And I really hope that you will reconsider and vote no, and then work together, as President Lear said in the October meeting, work together with the Budget and Finance Committee and the staff and come up with a budget that makes more sense. Thank you.
Madam President, no one else has signed up to speak on this?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No one else has signed up to speak, Madam President.
Thank you.
This is the motion to rescind.
Okay. Okay, it has been moved and seconded to rescind the vote on the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve.
Madam Chair, would this be the proper time to do a friendly amendment to the budget?
No, because this is
No.
just rescind.
Can you wait till
Sure.
we do this part of this?
Okay.
Okay.
It's just to rescind.
You're just a little ahead there. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to rescind the vote on the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase in the annual property assessment of $525. Is there any discussion on the motion to rescind the vote? Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. I still strongly urge this not to go forward because I believe that it is a violation, an illegal motion, and therefore it could bring back ill effects on us. We do have we can fix it right now. And if this does go forward, I will be talking about rescinding it next meeting.
Okay. A further discussion. The chair recognizes Director McAdam.
So I'm just asking for clarification about what this particular vote means. To rescind the vote, does that undo the negative vote and make it a positive vote? Or what,
No.
what is actually accomplished by the motion on the table right now?
Director McAdam and members of the board, this motion takes the vote away as if it had never been voted on, and the vote on the same motion will carry forward.
So the next step would be?
Once the motion to rescind is over, then we are going to go back to the time when you made the motion and it was seconded, I think by Darla. And that at that point, if you have an amendment, that is when that would take place. Are you clear?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion to rescind? Hearing no further discussion, this is the motion before you, to rescind the vote on the motion to approve the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million in carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase of the annual property assessment to $525. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agee is not here. Director Nowakowski.
No.
I vote yes. President Lair,
Yes.
5-3.
5-3, the
Favor.
motion passes. Okay, now we're back to the original motion that was made by Director McAdam on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes the increase of the annual property assessment to $525. Discussion on the motion. Secretary Lineski, you now have the floor.
I'm going to be very brief. In numerous discussions that I had with staff and having watched the Budget Committee pass the budget unanimously, basically the facts are this. We're going to raise through revenue $25 million. We're going to spend $27 million, which is a deficit of $2 million. Not only that, we start and carry forward, which is basically the excesses we've had over numerous years of 10.8, which will leave it at 8.8. And that's what the budget is. So we're going to spend about 20% of the money that we have, discretionary money for that. We are facing, if we don't pass the $29 increase, the deficit goes up to about $3 million, which means that we're spending about 30% in 1 year of the excess, the carry forward that we've had. I'm voting for the increase, but I have some concerns, which is I don't believe in deficit spending. In order to have this building, in order to have the pickleball courts, in order to have the bowling alleys, in order to have everything that we have to have the money. We have to be responsible financially. So I'm going to vote for this budget. If people want to put at risk all of this, that's fine. Last year, for instance, we were told that it would take $1 million to upgrade the IT system. That was not in the budget. We spent $500,000 because that's what requested. We're going to have to spend $500,000 again. We have 5 air conditioners, I believe, at, or dehumidifiers, I believe, at, where is that?
Sundial.
Sundial. They have gone up, to my understanding, of $500,000 each in the last year. That's going to be a lot of money. Now, I understand $29 is a lot of money to some people, but if you want to keep this place financially sound, if you want to be able to continue to do the things you do, we need to work towards a balanced budget, and next year I hope we have one. But I can't vote for one that spends 30% of what we have.
Further discussion? Chair recognizes Director Nowakowski.
Madam Chair, the increase in the annual assessment, I'm not in favor of it, but I could see, I could be swayed to go in favor of it if the increase dollars that are achieved by that increase go to club requests only. We, in this year's budget, we have approximately $400,000 that's going to club requests, which is being used mainly in only a series of clubs. Now, we always talk about, we have this great process of how clubs get things done. Well, 3 clubs get the money this year in our budget. I don't think that's realistic. And yes, the repairs to the buildings benefit the clubs. The repairs to the buildings aren't club requests. So I'd like to make a friendly amendment to the motion that says the management team will revise the 2023 annual budget such that the increase in annual dues is only spent on club requests. That would be my amendment to what is being presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Director Collins. Discussion.
You need to restate it.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's been a motion made that management team will revise the 2023 annual budget such that the increase in annual dues is spent only on club requests. And is seconded by Director Collins. Is there discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
Secretary Lineski, you now have the floor.
Well, it sounds good. The problem that I have is if we keep the rest of the expenditures the same, well, we'll be spending the increase of about $1 million on clubs, which sounds really good. It still leaves the deficit at $3 million because we have all that other information. The only way that this would work would be to cut the $1 million from other programs. Now, if that's what the next board wants to do and direct staff to redirect these funds to other programs and start what Congress has done a lot, which is basically earmarks, that's their prerogative. But again, it still leaves a $3 million deficit. All we're doing is spending that money somewhere else, so we've increased the budget to about $28 million.
Chair recognizes General Manager Bill Cook. Clarification.
Madam Chair, Board of Directors, so to do that, to make this amendment, the question becomes is where then do we not spend the money that has been allocated in that 2023 budget? So I believe we have roughly 300,000 for clubs this year in the 2023, if I'm not mistaken. 400, thank you. It's 400. So an additional 350,000 would have to come from somewhere. Is it one of the HVAC systems? Is it, where would it come from is the question. And then it becomes, we start our budget process in June, and we have a very detailed mechanism to determine what's aesthetic, what's safety, which clubs haven't received any funds for quite a while. And so we go through that process, and that's an operational process that has been going on for many years. And so now then it becomes out of our control. I view this as an operational, decision. And again, the repair and maintenance to the buildings and we've increased that by more than any other year that we've ever had repair and maintenance. And a lot of that goes directly back to the clubs. It may not, some of it's the building, but some of it goes into their into their facilities and such. So I would ask that this not be approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Yes, General Manager Cook, I have a couple of questions. The first one is Royal Oaks. They built a number of new apartments. Is that the new revenue that is we are going to receive above and beyond what they used to contribute? Is that put into this budget yet?
So, Madam Chair, Director Collins, it's not in our budget. We don't know when the completion is going to take place on those facilities. We did have a meeting. Director McCurdy and I did have a meeting with their CEO and CFO, and it's a graduated deployment, so we will realize a PIF, and then we will realize at least 248, or whatever half of our current assessment is, it would be due but from Royal Oaks. And then if the resident of that particular apartment decides to join, then they would pay the other half of that assessment. But that has not been incorporated into our budget yet because those apartments haven't been completed yet. So until that happens, we won't incorporate.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. They are not going to pay the full $496 per unit, and then the residents pay on top of that if they want a privilege card.
Royal Oaks pays, and this is an agreement that was negotiated many years before all of us were here. So that is, they being Royal Oaks, pays half, and then if the resident of each apartment decides to join the rec centers, then they would pay the other half. So we automatically get a half, and we bill that every year. And I can't remember what the total number is, but even if it's 100 units, that's roughly what? Do my math, $24,000. And so I know that's a graduated. It's over the next 10 years, I believe, and you can. And so that's a very good point too. Is the net. Because they are taking units out to add the new units. So it's a replacement. So the net, I don't have that off the top of my head, but it's not a one-for-one.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to amend? No, is there any further discussion? Okay. Treasurer Akins, you have the floor.
If I understand you right, Dr. Nowakowski, you say that this increase, you want the increased money to go directly to the club's request. And I'm wondering, what if you get more club requests than you have money for? How do you determine which clubs you're going to honor? Because you could get a lot of club requests that would have the total amount of money would be requested would be more than would be available. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Discussion? Wait, got to make sure everybody has a chance.
She was asking.
Answer the question?
No, I wasn't a question. That's what, because you can't just now have priority. You got to just determine which clubs you're going to honor and which clubs you're not going to honor, because you can't honor them all.
It's a statement. Okay. Director McAdam, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. You know, it's peculiar to me when I look at our mission statement and what we actually exist for and how essential the existence of clubs is to this. And the simple fact of the matter is that the club requests that have been out there are always not able to be met because there's not adequate funding for them. And there's always a process of determining where scarce funds can be allocated. So last year, I think $197,000 were allocated towards club requests out of a budget of $25 million. 2023, club requests are receiving $400,000, which is a welcome increase, but it's still just 1% of our total annual budget. And considering the essential nature of club activity to the well-being of this community and to all of us, I'm strongly in favor of saying that if we're going to raise extra money, let's use it in order to foster the thing that makes Sun City what it is.
You've already spoken. Is there any other, okay, Director?
Again, I'm not opposed to the clubs, but for the clubs to have the location that they are, to have the air conditioning that they have, to have the space they have, to have the materials they have, we have to have a sound financial RCSC. What this does is still leave the deficit, if we don't have the $29 not earmarked for clubs, at $3 million. That's assuming that inflation doesn't skyrocket, which is not a safe assumption. If they want to fund clubs more, they might want to increase dues more or assessments more, but the bottom line is we have to be financially sound or none of this happens.
Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. We will remain financially sound, whether this was, the dues were raised or not. My question is, we're hearing priorities. And to me, when you have, at the Bell Center, it sounds like we have more than one problem. We have flooding with electricity and metal and humans involved. We have objects falling from the ceilings. These seem to be high in the safety aspect of this. And, you know, I would never say stop the other clubs that we have given things to. I want them to have it. But when we have such safety issues as electrocution and possible electrocution and things falling on them, I think that's something that needs to be acted on. We can't keep kicking this can down the road.
Yeah, I'm waiting. Director McAdam.
Yes, I also just would like to address the question of being fiscally responsible. And I hear a lot of concerns being voiced that we could be on the precipice of a financial disaster if we don't do this. And I would simply like to just go back to the number that was cited earlier today. This year, we have been in an inflationary cycle this year. Phoenix, Arizona had the highest inflation rate of any metropolitan area in the United States, something on the order of 12 or 13%. Nonetheless, I would like to congratulate our staff, our general manager, for having come out of this year right now with $3,557,078 in excess. I don't think we have to worry about being on the edge of some fiscal cliff right now. And if the question is, what do we do if we have $750,000 less than the new budget, I would suggest that that would be an excellent task for management to tackle and to say, you know what, the board has told us we're not going to raise fees when we have this kind of money sitting in the banks. Let's figure out how we can balance a budget for next year using the funds that are available to us without an assessment increase.
Is there anything, General Manager Cook? It's habit.
Madam President, thank you. If I could address Director Collins, we absolutely address safety at any time that there's an issue. And actually, this year, our repair and maintenance budget is $1.4 million. I believe it's 50 to 60% higher than we've ever had. And we know that repair and maintenance and preventative maintenance is key to our success. And so that's why we've budgeted that much for repair and maintenance, to make sure that when things come up that are safety issues, we address those immediately. With respect to Director McAdam, the precipice starts somewhere, right? And the thing is the expenses, like our wages right now, that is, the base that we are going to start with going into 2023 is in perpetuity, and then it just increases from there. So it's not as if inflation comes back down, those wages are going to come back down. They're going to stay at that rate and then go up by whatever inflationary pressures we have going into 2023. So we have to start now to ensure that we can meet those demands. And if we run out of carry forward, and we do need a balanced budget, we won't have carry forward to spend and have a deficit budget, right, and have deficit spending. So we want to continue that and to make sure that we have things that come up that the board comes up with, to make sure that we can address those things that come up as the board sees fit. For example, Best Friends Dog Club, Lakeview, for the security initiative, Lakeview Pickleball. I mean, those are things that were all additionally added, and if we did not have a carry forward, we couldn't address those immediately, as requested. So, thank you.
Madam President?
Director?
Can we talk about carryover for a minute? And maybe talk about numbers for a minute so that some of us can have greater clarity? Because at the start of the year, there was a statement that there was $11 million of carryover.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, the annual carryover is actually about $2 million. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say?
So, for example, in 2022, Director McAdam mentioned the net excess of $3 million that we've generated so far. That net excess is used to pay for capital projects. Capital projects budget for this year was just under $3 million. So even though we're generating over $3 million of excess, which is an accounting term, that excess is used to fund our capital project spending. We're not generating $3 million of additional carry forward this year. We'll probably add around $500,000 to our carry forward balance this year. So we have to be really careful when we're talking about net excess, that we all understand that that net excess is used to pay for capital projects. So if we're generating $3 million of excess this year, we're also spending $3 million on capital projects. So the net addition to carry forward is not $3 million this year. It's probably under $500,000.
Okay, so what you're saying is you started at 11 million, and when you're done, you'll have 11 and a half.
We probably started just over 10, and we'll probably end at 10.7, 10.8.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you're going to have 10.7 million in carryover.
Correct.
Okay. What is, in your view, a comfortable amount of carryover? Because you have to have something in reserve. So what is a reasonable amount to keep in reserve?
So this also, you need to pull into this conversation our capital reserve. And there's been discussion on that. The proposal that we made as staff was to take some of the carry forward money and add it into our capital reserve balance. So those things are very interrelated. I would be much more comfortable with a higher capital reserve balance than we're carrying right now. We have $110 million of assets at RCSC. Rule of thumb is we should have 40% of that in reserve. We have $8 million in reserve right now. So I think the bigger picture conversation that we need to have is what is our capital reserve process? And that ties into carryover in terms of what is a comfortable amount of money that we should have in reserve. So I think it's a much broader conversation that needs to be had. around capital reserve as well as carry forward.
Okay, so you have 10 million in carryover. You'd like to have $10 million in reserve?
I would love to have a capital reserve balance over $20 million. We're at $8 million right now.
Okay, and our total availability is 25 million?
No, our capital reserve right now is about 8, and our carry forward is about 10.8.
Okay, but in totality, the budget is 25 million?
Our budget for 2023,
Yes.
we are budgeting about 25 million in income, but 27 million in expense when you consider capital projects as well as our operating expenses.
So you don't have enough money, in your view, to have a sufficient reserve?
I don't believe we have a sufficient capital reserve at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you've already spoken twice. You've already spoken twice.
Can I speak?
Director Akins, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I don't want any money to go to the clubs. Clubs already have money requests. There's already a process for them to get that. I've had a lot of people come to me and want us to pass the budget because I know that if something does happen, I don't want anybody to lose their jobs. I know that I've talked about this at the planning session last time, but a lot of people did not hear this. And I've bragged about how our assessment has not been raised in 6 years. And I've been here 4 of those years. We're talking about increasing for the budget, the annual assessment for $29. For $29. That turns out to be $2.41 a month. And as Director Levesky said last time, if you think about, spread that over the last 6 years, it's like 50 cents a month. So I'm not hoping that, not thinking that $2.41 should be that crucial to anybody, because if you're going to lose your house over $2.41, you probably have bigger issues than you're trying to admit. Let's be realistic. Prices have to go up over time. We are knowing that the fees cannot stay the same forever. You have to prepare for the future. I've tried to share that with you. Our RCSC has incurred raises due to the inflationary prices, like we are doing on our own. And RCSC is not exempt from any of that. Their prices are going up just like our prices are going up. I would say that we should probably raise the fee this year. And if it wasn't really necessary to do, then next year we don't have to raise it. Because I like to err on the side of caution as opposed to trying to deal with a mistake. You might also remember that the first time I voted yes on this issue, the next time I voted no. But I was hoping to develop a conversation that would help you guys understand the budget more, which is what happened at the planning session. We had a presentation about the budget. And so I am in favor of this because I would like to err on the side of caution.
Thank you. You've already spoke twice. Anybody else? Sue, do you have any comments? I would just like to say, for information purposes, we've talked about our mission statement, and the mission statement is wonderful, but it doesn't stand on its own. We have mission, vision, and values. And just each one of those is a leg in a three-legged stool. You can't focus totally on one thing. In our values, it's very important that we are fiscally responsible. In our bylaws, one of the directions we have to follow is to pass a budget. This is wonderful to have all this debate, but this debate should have taken place on the committee level. When the committee approved it, I hate to say this, it's not a rubber stamp, but I believe almost every board member was at that meeting. Concerns should have taken place there. It should never have gone this far. It's fiscally irresponsible for us to move forward without approving a budget for next year. Okay, with that being said, we are talking about a motion to amend. A motion before you was to approve the recommended recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward into the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase in the annual property assessment of $525. It's been amended to include the statement the management team will revise the 2023 annual budget such that the increase in annual dues is only to be spent on club requests. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote on the amendment?
The amendment only, correct?
The amendment only.
Director Fimmel.
No.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
No.
Vice President Agi is not here. Treasurer Akins.
No.
Director Collins.
Yes.
I vote no. President Blair.
No.
3 for the amendment, 5 against.
So with three in favor and
5 against.
5 against, the motion does not pass.
The amendment.
The amendment does not pass. Now back to the motion. The motion before you is to approve the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward into the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase in the annual property assessment of $525. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Finished discussion on that. We were dealing only with the amendment. Only with the amendment.
Okay.
And now we're back to
Go ahead. Do you have a comment?
yeah. Well, actually,
Something new?
I have a question. Pardon me?
I just wondered if you were bringing up a new comment or a new point?
Are you insinuating that I just repeat myself endlessly? I have a question for our finance team. So I'm a little bit perplexed. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that our capital projects are not budgeted for. We wait to see what we have left over, and then we use that for addressing capital projects. Is that a correct understanding?
Director McAdam, the capital projects are budgeted. If you look at the budget presentation, we have a budgeted net excess. We have a budgeted capital projects amount. And in order to balance the budget, if there's a deficit after we take the capital project spending away from our budgeted excess, that's being taken from carry forward. So for the 2023 budget, we're budgeting that we're going to use $1.9 million of carry forward to pay for the capital project amount that's not generated in excess. So we've got a budget that budgets a $1.3 million excess, but then we're taking $1.9 million out of carry forward to pay for the full amount of budgeted capital projects.
Any further discussion? Secretary Lineski?
I have a question for Director McCurdy. I mean, he's the Director of Finance. Okay, Mr. McCurdy, we'll make it easy. This year, there has been an increase by minimum wage in Arizona. Is that correct?
There was an increase in 2022. There will be an increase in 2023. It will go from $12.80 in 2022 to $13.85 in 2023.
Correct me if I have a misunderstanding, but about $700,000 to $800,000 of our budget is based on the statutory, which makes it mandatory for us to increase the minimum wage, about that much money in and of itself, forgetting all other items, right? That $700,000 to $800,000 is going to be spent because the state of Arizona told us to increase the minimum wage, and we have to. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you were to take the $29 that we want, that I'm advocating we raise, all that money in and of itself, all of it basically would be spent, or close to all of it, because I don't want to be 100%, but basically almost all of it, if not more, would be spent solely to pay for what the state of Arizona has told us we have to do in an increase of minimum wage. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Director Collins, you have the floor.
So let me see if I understand this. Everybody, they raised the minimum wage, and all of our employees are at minimum wage.
No.
And they're going to get a raise, and then everybody above them is going to get the same raise.
The minimum wage affects probably a third of our employees, but if you think about it, if we're raising the minimum wage for a large percentage of our employees, we have to also raise wages for the rest of the employees. Otherwise, you've got people that are making less than minimum wage.
And we did do that equally.
That's in the budget, yes.
Okay.
Madam President?
Director Fimmel, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm not sure I was clear. The people who are working under minimum wage will get an increase, but the people above them who are not on minimum wage will suddenly be earning less?
No, we're trying to adjust everybody equally in 2023. The issue with a minimum wage increase is that the folks that are just above minimum wage are now making 5 cents more an hour than minimum wage, when before they may have been $1 above minimum wage. So that pressure on that category of employee is why we're trying to raise everybody the same amount in 2023.
And the reason for that is a retention issue, or?
Yes, absolutely.
I just have a clarifying question, Madam President.
Okay. Secretary Lansky, you have the floor.
Mr. McCurdy, if I understand our budget correctly, the increase to people with the minimum wage is approximately $700,000 to $800,000, correct? We went over that.
In the ballpark, yes.
However, the actual increase in wages for everyone, and I don't know if this is counting benefits or not, but the actual increase for everybody is 1.4 million, so only 50% of the increase that we're spending on increases in wages goes to the minimum wage. Am I correct?
I think that's in the ballpark, yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Bill?
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Directors. I would like to just talk to wages just for a second. If you look at us and you compare us to some of our sister communities in the area, we are considerably lower, okay? Secondarily, we've had inflation of over 8% that all of our employees are feeling this year. Third is that 2/3 of our employees are residents, okay? And they're working here because they're trying to make ends meet. So in raising our wages, we're helping out the community as well, and we're also decreasing our amount of turnover, which costs a lot of money. So when I started here, we were at 43 to 44%. We've come down to the mid-30s at this point, which saves us a lot of money in terms of recruiting, in terms of training, and that helps with safety issues. Is we're not training newbies to replace light bulbs and do things like that, and we've got trained individuals who've been here for a long time. That helps the community as well. And then finally, if I've been here for 5 years and I'm making $1 or $1.25 more than minimum wage, and now if somebody just starts here is I'm only now making a nickel more than that person, that's not fair either. So we want to reward the people that have been here for 5 years, because those employees are talented and trained employees. So we want to retain those as well. So thank you very much.
Madam President?
Director Fimmel, you have the floor.
So did I just hear you say that the wages for other Sun cities is higher than the wages that we offer here?
Madam President, Director Fimmel, yes. So our HR department did an analysis, and we actually have the actual wage ranges for some of our communities, other communities, and pretty much across the board. And I don't know what that percentage is. Is it roughly 20%? So if you take the average across the board, we're roughly 20% lower.
Why? Is that a cost savings process? What is
So
do we have
I can't
retention
answer-
issues, or?
I can't answer why, but I can tell you that 43% turnover is a result of that. So people are leaving because, well, I can go a couple miles away or 4 or 5 miles away and make more at the same job. So I think I'm trying to make this, a great place for our community to work and for anybody who works here, and to reduce that turnover rate. So,
Other than the fact that that would increase the bottom line and maybe result in an increase in an assessment, I mean, clearly it's a retention issue. Have we given any thought to increasing wages?
we are. Yeah. So we're
Is that part of this process?
It is. So the 2023, we have 1.4 million planned for increase in wages for this year.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just by way of information, retaining and recruiting a new employee on average spends about 30% of their yearly wage to hire, train, and put them in a position. So from a fiscal standpoint, as far as responsibility, when we know we are much lower than our competitors, fiscally, we need to be thinking about that as well in making our decision. Okay. Since there is no further discussion, the motion before you is to approve the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee to approve the 2023 budget, except for the recommendation to transfer $4.5 million from carry forward to the capital reserve. The 2023 budget includes an increase in the annual property assessment of $525. Secretary Lineski, will you?
To 525.
Two.
Yeah.
To $525.
Yes.
Thank you. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote on the motion to approve the budget?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Iggy is not here. Director Nowakowski.
No.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
It's 5-3 in favor.
With 5 votes in favor and 3 opposed, the motion passes its first reading. Our Secretary Lenevsky.
I have another motion. I move that we waive the second reading.
Is there a second?
No.
Director Wilson.
We cannot waive the reading unless you have 6 votes for.
Oh.
It's in the bylaws.
That's fine. I still make the motion.
Okay, well. Okay. Moving on. You need a second. Okay. Can I do it? It's wrong. Is there a second? Hearing no second?
I'll second.
Oh, second by Director Akins. Okay. There is a motion to forgo the second reading made by Secretary Lineski, seconded by Treasurer Akins.
I do have a question, though. Can I ask my question?
No. As maker of the motion, Secretary Lineski, would you
Certainly.
choose to speak?
Yes, I understand the resistance to this, but we've had numerous discussions on it, and here is the problem. January 1st is when the budget takes effect. If we don't waive a second reading, then the budget doesn't take effect, and we have no budget at the beginning of the year. Therefore, although I'm supporting this motion, I think it's imperative, if it's not done, that we have a special meeting so that we can pass a budget.
Yes. Yes.
Discussion?
Yes. I didn't really, I seconded the motion because I wanted to have a little discussion about that, because that's what I wanted to try to bring up, because if we can, we need 2/3 and we don't have 2/3, we don't have 6, we probably won't have 6 votes, then I agree with him, we should call for a special session.
Yes.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any other discussion? Motion has
But is
been,
it, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is the motion now out of order, though, because we cannot do it because of the bylaws? So I think the motion would be out of order.
so
No,
are you,
The
Secretary Lanowski?
motion can be made, Director Akins. It may fail, right? Which I think would then necessitate us all coming back to be able to vote on the budget. But I don't think it's out of order, but it may not have the votes to pass.
Secretary Lanowski, do you want to continue with that?
I think that pretty much states it.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion to forego the second reading made by Secretary Lanowski, seconded by Darla Akins. If there's no further discussion, Secretary Lanowski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Vice President Agee's not here. Treasurer Akins.
I don't know how to vote on it because I don't,
Do you want to forego the second reading? That's what we're doing.
yes, I would, but because we need a special session.
There you go. So you're
I know,
voting
so-
yes?
Wait a minute.
I know, that's why I said I don't think we can vote on this because it's illegal to vote on it because it violates our bylaws.
Okay,
So I don't know how we're voting on it.
decision has been made.
I've already made the decision. We're going to move forward on it.
Withdraw the second.
So we don't,
So a yes vote,
A yes or a no?
a yes vote on the motion would forego the second reading, and the budget motion would take effect now. A no vote won't forego the second reading.
and we cause to have a special session.
Well, that's one opinion, yeah.
Because that's what I want. I want the special session to happen, so I need to vote no.
Very good.
Okay, you guys get all wrapped up in semantics, I get lost in the conversation.
To
Sorry.
clarify, Director Akins, you voted no.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Fimmel.
No.
Director McAdam.
No.
Director Nowakowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
No.
I vote yes. President Lara.
No.
Okay. 1 for, 7
The
against.
motion fails. Okay. The next item is new business. It's the second reading of a motion by Director Wilson to amend the Sun City Foundation's Board Policy Number 1, Item 1A. Director Wilson.
On behalf of the Sun City Foundation, I move to amend Board Policy Number 1, Item 1A, to include the following. The applicant must also be a member in good standing for the 3 years prior to applying for assistance unless there are exigent circumstances.
All right. Marcia, are there any individuals who signed up to speak to this?
Yes, Madam President.
Good.
When I read your name, please come up to the podium and state your name and member number and whether you are speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. The first person would be Patrick Gannon.
Board of Directors, members, I am opposed to adding the...
Your name and number?
Name and
Oh,
member
I'm
number.
sorry,
Pat.
Patrick Gannon, 150056. I am opposed to adding the, what I would call a qualifier that says the applicant must also be a member in good standing for the 3 years prior to applying for assistance unless there are exigent circumstances. The first part of this, and the way it states right now, says a person needs to be at least 67 years of age, a property owner in Sun City for a minimum of 5 years, and resides in the home. I don't have any issue with those. I'm sure some committee worked on that and came up with those criteria. But where it sticks for me and doesn't work is I'm concerned that are we making it more difficult for people in financial stress to receive needed assistance? And so why are we adding another filter? I just don't understand that. And there may be an individual circumstance that occurred that seemed to be not acceptable to people on the decision-making group for that applicant. But I really want to caution, at least from my experience, making policy or adding to policy for 1 or 2 or 3 instances that might have occurred. And I don't know what's occurred to bring us to this point. I just don't want to add more filters. If someone's stressed financially, give them the $496 or whatever your process is. But I am just opposed. It goes counter to the sense of community I believe that we are trying to reinforce here in Sun City. So these are other members. I'm a member, they're a member. If they come forward to the foundation, let's not make it harder for them to get some fairly important to them assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda McIntyre.
Good morning. Linda McIntyre, 123-216. I just want to comment a little bit further on what Patrick just said. I have sort of those same issues, and if it's members in good standing, then I just want some clarification, because that would be what I understand. They couldn't have committed any, have any incident reports, or their assessments would have to be paid in full. And I'm assuming if they're coming to the foundation, it would be to have their assessments paid. Correct, Sue?
They are applying for assistance. It means that their last assessment has been paid, because there is a 60-day window where they can apply for this.
Right. So what would explain to me again a member in good standing? A member in good standing would be their assessments are paid. They don't have any outstanding incidents.
But if they have a suspension, they are not a member in good standing.
Right, and they'd be suspended for an incident or an unpaid assessment? No, that doesn't qualify. I mean, that's why
They would not qualify for assistance if they hadn't paid last year's assessment, or if we hadn't helped them. It can only be within 60 days. So they're applying for assistance for this assessment now. We would look at that. They're still in good standing at that point.
But if they had not paid in the previous 3 years, would that count against them?
Most definitely.
That shows to me that they've had difficulties and they continue to have difficulties. And so I kind of agree with Patrick that that's putting additional pressure on them. That's just my concern about it. So
they would be denied regardless because of that. Because we would be looking at the 60 days. At that point, RCSC has to take action on that, because then a lien is put on their property.
Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Totten.
Jean Totten, 148753. I am opposed to this motion, along with Patrick and Linda. It's very confusing to understand, much less alone do it. By any chance, are you able to tell me what the foundation has in their budget?
I don't have that budget with me, no.
As the chairman, you have no idea?
I do not have the budget with me, so to give you a figure off the top of my head would not be right.
Okay. I agree with what they said. It just seems like you're making it a little bit harder for people who are already having a hard enough time to make ends meet. And you just are considering raising the assessment. Let's not make it harder for our fellow members, our fellow citizens, friends, neighbors. They're the ones who are most in need. Why make it harder for them? Please, I oppose this.
Thank you.
Madam President, no one else has signed up to speak on this motion.
Thank you. Director Wilson, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first?
I would like to say that the Foundation Board passed this unanimously. This was a recommendation from them.
Treasurer Aiken?
Guys, I think you're reading too much into this. Okay? This is not making it harder for anybody else to apply. I think that if you are here and if you are in a financial need, then you should not just misbehave. I mean, there's laws and rules everywhere. Every time people misbehave, there is a consequence. And I don't like to reward bad behavior. So I think that if you are in a financial need, you are asking somebody for help. I think you would want to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed to make sure that you can get that help. You're reading way, way too much into this. We're not going to deny anybody. There is help out there. They just have to apply, and then we will give it to them. We're not going to deny people. I mean, unless they've been misbehaving. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not because they're in financial need that they're going to be denied. I mean, I don't understand why you're having all these questions, because it's really kind of trying to wrap my head around you're reading way too much into it. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science.
Okay, thank you. Director Collins?
Thank you, Madam President. A couple things I have with this is we have in the past had people written up for rolling their eyes, and that would disqualify them from getting their help.
What?
Also, because that would be a report against them. And all these reports are totally confidential, so the committee is not going to know why they're denying this person other than there's a letter in their file, because they can't discuss it. And to me, when they went in front of the commission or whatever, they were given a punishment. And it should not be up to someone else to now add on to their punishment, which then would make them not able to pay their assessment, which would make them delinquent, and then a member and not in good standing. To me, this is just something that is going to create more of a problem than it will solve. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have some information that needs to be shared. Director Wilson.
Actually, I would say, Director Collins, you really have no clue how this is done. We have a process that we go through, and it is already determined the only person who would know that this person has a suspension would be the staff or the office itself. The committee is not made aware of that. That information is confidential. It is always confidential.
And there's appeal process.
Director McAdam, you have the floor.
So I have a question for clarification. I hear two different levels of potential disqualifiers being mentioned. One is having an incident report, and the other is being suspended.
It's not
incident.
No,
so this
it's
is my question. I'm asking for this. So you're suggesting that the only reason would be that somebody has been suspended from membership
Yes.
privileges?
Yes.
And could you give me an idea of what types of things would lead to the suspension of membership privileges? Is the non-payment of assessments one of those things that would suspend
No.
you from member privileges?
No.
Well, thank you. Asking for clarification.
It is behavior, and it's the third incident or an extreme incident that would cause you to be suspended.
Please. Enlighten us.
Madam President, Board, if I may interject some operational input on that. From an incident report standpoint, the The bylaws are clear that a member, based upon the third incident report, would be referred to a board for a board hearing. At that point, the board determines whether there's a suspension. With respect to the annual property assessment, that does not result in a suspension per se or anything that is akin to a incident report. The fact that you are past due or delinquent on your annual property assessment does make you not a member in good standing. When you go past due, you do not have privileges to come use the facilities, participate in club activities, because that being delinquent is, or being current on your annual property assessment is a requirement to being a member in good standing. So it's not you're not suspended in the sense that it's the board that is a suspension, but when you make your payment, you become fully current on your annual property assessment, then you're back in good standing.
So that adds a third component here. We've talked about just incident reports, we've talked about suspension, and now you're talking about being a member in good standing. So does this motion require you to be a member in good standing according to the definition that we've just heard from Mr. Herring?
That's always been there.
It's always been that.
That has always been there.
So in other words, being delinquent would deny the opportunity to be able to be considered for funding by the foundation?
Bill?
Yeah.
Just by way of information, you know, a board policy 20 describes in depth the rules regarding the foundation. A member must be in good standing, meaning they must be brought forward on their assessments. If they have an incident report in their file, nobody cares about that at this point. Must not be related to a member of the foundation board by marriage or birth, and must agree to adhere to the foundation articles of incorporation and bylaws and RCSC articles and board policies and any other rules of the corporation. That's it. Secretary Lenevsky.
I have a question for Director Wilson.
Go ahead.
In here are exigent circumstances. What did the committee discuss on that? I mean, it has a legal meaning to me. I'm just wondering why it's in here and what's your or the book committee's understanding.
Oh, I'm trying to think of exactly how they stated it.
Okay.
You know, that would be something that the board itself would have to talk about. And keep in mind, this is a board and not a committee.
Okay.
So they would have to meet on that and discuss if that's something that they would go ahead with.
Madam President, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Director Wilson, this is not like a cyclical or catch-22 kind of thing that because you cannot afford your assessment, you cannot get money for your assessment. The foundation understands the reason why people are applying is that they need support with paying their assessment. The fact that they could be out of good standing simply because they could not finance their assessment is the reason why they're making application to the foundation to begin with. And that's why they're there. So that is not a catch-22 process for them.
And when you're talking, excuse me.
Yes.
When you're talking extension circumstances, we have the 60-day window. Let's say that someone is in the hospital because of a severe injury, and they missed that 60-day window. The board would then discuss, okay, we know this person has missed it, however, this is what has happened, can we help them? That's what we mean by that.
Any further
Yes,
discussion?
I would like to also add to that. We were talking about because of the pandemic, there was a lot of things that happened, like, you know, something like that would happen again, where everything was shut down and they really couldn't get there or couldn't because they couldn't access anybody or couldn't get in contact with anybody. There's a lot of different things that this word exigent came up during the pandemic, and we thought we would just incorporate that into our stuff because there's stuff, you know, emergency stuff.
Okay. Hearing no more discussion, the motion before you is to amend Sun City Foundation Board Policy Number 1 as stated. Secretary Lenevsky, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Not here.
round back.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
What'd she say?
Yes.
Okay,
Director McAdam.
No.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Not here.
Director Noakowski.
I'll remain consistent, no.
I'll vote yes. President Lara.
Yes. It's us.
Director Collins.
Director Collins?
I vote no.
Okay. It's 5 yes, 3 no.
Passes. The motion passes. It's second reading. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is the second reading of a motion by Director Wilson to amend Board Policy 10. Director Wilson.
This was basically to clarify statements in there because people felt it was unclear. So when pickleball is changing, with the exception of water, food and beverages of any kind are not allowed within the court enclosures. For racquetball, handball, table tennis, it has changed it to food or beverages of any kind are not allowed within the court enclosures or the playing areas when it comes to table tennis. On tennis, with the exception of water and food and beverages of any kind are not allowed within the court enclosures.
Secretary, Marcia Johnson, everybody's a secretary today.
When I read your name, please come up to the podium, state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you're speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. And I see you're already up here, so I won't call your name. Susan?
Thank you. 112650. I'm not sure if I'm for or against it. I have a question relative to tennis. Was there any consideration given to the fact that tennis is a little bit more rigorous of a sport? And in between changing, did you consider putting a bench outside the court so that they could have, some sort of electrolyte drinks outside? I understand the reason for the motion. You don't want things spilling. However, in the rigorous sport like tennis, where it's a longer set, people are generally used to going and refueling with electrolytes or a banana or something in between. So that would mean you would have to create a bench or something outside of the court. Was that considered at all?
This was clarifying this language, for one. I would say we would direct that to our RCSC staff if that's something that your club or individuals are wanting. That's an issue that would go to them.
Yeah, it's probably why a racquetball committee would be good, but again, it's rigorous. I don't think you want somebody passing out because they're low on electrolytes, and especially in a, in a community for people in the senior citizen age.
And again, this is dealing just with the enclosure. I'm not talking about outside. This has nothing to do with outside.
Right, but the enclosure has the bench and the covered bench so people can rest. So they would have to put their drinks outside of the enclosure.
Which is what they are supposed to do now.
Well, I think the clarifying is nothing but water, and I know that there are electrolyte drinks that are brought in. It's just a point. I'm just trying to make sure that we consider. I don't even play tennis, to be honest with you. I'm bringing it forward because I'm concerned about people that do play tennis, and someone asked me to bring it forward, and I'm concerned about, getting depleted for those that do play the sport, and just consideration around that so that they can make sure that they replenish. It's much different than pickleball, table tennis, and racquetball, but tennis is much more rigorous, so that's why I'm bringing it forth.
Okay, and the former policy on that is food nor beverage can be brought onto the court. So all we've done is clarified that water could be brought in on this.
Okay, not.
Right. It's just because before it was nothing. Nothing could be brought in.
Okay, well, yeah. I'm just thinking electrolytes might be, something to consider for people that need them. Okay.
Madam President.
Thank you.
Madam President, Board of Directors, so there are waters with electrolytes. Actually, my wife and I buy that all the time,
Propel.
so that would be fine.
Okay.
Everyone that signed up has spoken, Madam President.
Thank you, Marcia Johnson.
You're very welcome.
All right. Is there any discussion? Secretary Treasurer Akins.
You know what, it also is a good policy to hydrate ahead of time, because every time they say you're getting ready to do a long run or anything like that, they always tell you, or to go on a hike, they always tell you to try to hydrate a day ahead of time. And as General Manager Bill Cook said, there is water that does have electrolytes in it. So there are ways that you can hydrate and stay up long enough to get through your tennis match, and then you can hydrate later.
Director Adams? McAdams, I'm sorry.
So I'd just like some clarification. The general manager just told us that he would be okay with electrolytes. We're voting on a motion that says only water.
No, he said
Yeah, but that's different than the words that we have on the page in front of us. The page in front of us says with the exception of water. It doesn't say with the exception of water with electrolytes in it. So this would, I mean, words are our tools.
All right, thank you.
I mean,
Any further discussion? Director Collins.
This is like when we discussed the length of the noodle in the pool. Why is the board involved in this?
I think that's a rhetorical question.
Okay, thank you. Director Wilson.
I'd like to just remind you, this is already a board policy. The whole idea behind this was just to make it more clear, because we had someone come forward that said it was confusing in how it was written. So it was just to clear that up on that person's request.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
I guess I
Director
would like...
McAdams, you have the
I would
floor.
like to make the favorable amendment to change the statement about tennis to say with the exception of water or water-based beverages. Would that be adequate for us? Well, water with electrolytes in it. Mr. Cook, what would you like to have there that allows for electrolytes to be on tennis? I know. So make a suggestion.
Just leave it.
Madam President, Board of Directors, so beer is water-based. So obviously, we don't want to put water-based. Water with electrolytes,
Smart.
it doesn't have sugar in it or anything that can be sticky, if it gets spilled on a court or what have you. The issue was with respect to electrolytes at tennis. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. At Bell, we have the seating area. Can you have beverages in the seating area in there? I mean, it's a wonderful seating area. It's covered and.
Madam President, Board, we do have the seating area that's not adjacent. It's adjacent to the courts, but I believe we have seating areas, and I'm going off of a memory here, that's different in tennis than with pickleball. Pickleball doesn't have seating close to the courts. It's off and out of the way. But at tennis, there are seating areas that are not in the court play per se, that are midline in between two courts that are covered. That is not in the area of play technically. And I think what we're trying to achieve is to not have colored beverages, things that would have that would leave a residue. So a clear water is something that if it's spilled, it's going to evaporate. It won't cause discoloration or stickiness on the court. I think, as General Manager Cook had indicated, if that electrolyte water is clear in base and is not sugary and won't leave a residue and will evaporate, then that would likely be fine. And I think like at Bell, you have the seating areas off court that are not technically in the enclosure, the play area.
So,
Director McAdams.
I think this is a classic example of something that I would prefer to simply table this, or not to table it, to postpone it, and allow you to come back to us with the wording that gives the clarity that you wish to have. Right now, the wording is
Do
not.
you have a
I mean, if that's-
motion? Are you making a motion to postpone?
Is there any other way that we can make sure that we're voting on something
You can amend the motion, or we can vote on the motion.
I'm
and-
asking for a suggestion from management of how we would amend this motion to make it accurate so that it can be properly enforced. Figure it out.
Madam President, directors, Director McAdam, I believe you added with the exception of
Yes,
water.
thank you. Yes.
Right, because
So-
otherwise you would have denied the opportunity for anybody to have anything on the courts at all. And that's just, as
Right.
was just stated, is flat out dangerous.
Yeah, and that's fine. We have no issue with that. I think, I really don't want to go into, defining the ingredients that need to be in whatever water. I mean, we could put H2O only, right? Because I don't believe electrolytes have a chemical makeup to them. I have, the electrolyte water in my cup right there, so I'm okay with just leaving it as water. I believe common sense will prevail. I don't believe we'll kick anybody out if they have electrolyte water, in the enclosure, so.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. The motion before you is to amend Board Policy 10. As written, Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiken.
Yes.
Vice President Ady is not here. Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Winter.
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
With 8 in favor, 0 opposed, the motion passes. The next item of business is the second reading of a motion by Secretary Linefsky to approve the $4,000 to be paid to the posse for their continued assistance with event parking in 2023. Secretary Linefsky.
I move to approve the $4,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse for the continued assistance with event parking in 2023.
Marcia Johnson, is there any members?
No one has signed up, Madam President.
Very good. Secretary Lineski, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first?
It speaks for itself.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Director McAdam.
Yes, I would actually like to amend this motion to state, I move to approve $4,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse as a donation.
As a donation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Nowakowski.
What else could it be?
Okay, is there discussion as maker of the motion? Director McAdam, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I'm concerned that by attaching strings to this, that we come perilously close to making this some kind of a contractual obligation. And I would much prefer for this to be a simple donation, which I think has been the case in the past.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, there is a motion to amend. I move to approve the $4,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse as a donation for their continued...
No, just as a donation, period.
As a donation, period.
Drop the last part.
Okay. Secretary, is there any further discussion? Secretary, Director Wilson?
I'm concerned, would that have any effect? I mean, we have the lawsuit that we went through. I guess I'm asking General Manager, would this have an adverse effect by changing that?
Madam President, Director Wilson, I don't have an issue with the change.
Okay, all right.
Any further? Secretary Linefsky?
I have no problem with the change either.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to amend. The original motion is to approve $4,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse as a donation. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Allaire.
Yes.
8-0.
Okay, now we're going to vote on the motion as amended to approve $4,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse as a donation. Secretary Lineski.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Ege is not here. Director Noakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Allaire.
Yes.
It's 8-0 in favor.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes. Next item, our next item of new business is a motion by Secretary Lanevsky to amend the 2023 budget to include $70,000 to conduct a capital reserve study. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Wilson. Thank you. Marsha Johnson, are there any individuals who chose to speak to this?
When I read your name, please come up to the podium and state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you're speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to comment as indicated by the light on the stage. One person signed up, and it's Nancy Greathouse.
Thank you. Nancy Greathouse, 149885. I am speaking as against this motion. I honestly think it's absolutely ridiculous to even think of spending $70,000 for a capital reserve study when you're just now passing a budget in the amount that we are. The capital reserve study, maybe Director Lanevsky can talk to that as far as what it entails, but to me that's pretty much a financial review of what all the things have been done, and for somebody to sit down and read through our books for $70,000 sounds like a ridiculous amount of money. Thank you.
Madam President, no one else has signed up to speak on this motion.
Okay. Secretary Lineski, you have made the motion. As maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Yes, I do. I'm mystified. I note that somebody has indicated they're opposed to this on this board. I am mystified. This idea came from a director at the planning session. It was discussed that it was absolutely necessary. There was not opposition expressed by the board at that time. A request was made at that time about how much it costs. It's $70,000. So I made this motion to try to implement what was suggested at the planning session by someone else, and to get this done so we could get proper capital reserves. I decided to make the motion. It was not mine originally, and I'm mystified that no one objected to the idea at the planning session. Now there appears to be opposition on this board. Whatever happens, happens.
Discussion.
Madam Chair.
Director Noakowski, you have the floor.
I guess my difficulty with it is, first of all, we have $260,000 in our budget for unbudgeted items by the board. So I guess I don't understand why we're changing the budget to include an additional $70,000. There's a line item in the budget for unbudgeted board-requested items. The second one is, I don't know what I'm getting for $70,000. Normally, when you get a quote, there's a scope of services by somebody. There's something that tells me what I'm going to get for $70,000. I can't support something that I don't know what I'm spending the money on. I'll stop there.
Discussion. Director McAdam, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm not sure if Director Lanevsky's veiled references to somebody on the board having been in opposition to it applied to me or not. I am very, very open to the idea that a capital reserve study by a certified person who does this might be a very good idea. However, this has been in discussion at the Finance and Budget Committee, and as a matter of fact, I have the minutes from the October 19th meeting, and one of the minuted items is Board President Lara requested this committee develop a policy for transfer of carry-forward monies to the capital reserve. So we were aware of the fact that we don't have any policies right now about reserves, about what the proper amounts would be, how they could be used, how they would be replenished if they were used, and that it was necessary for this to happen. There is a process in place. We have already actually been offered the services of a resident who does this professionally. I have had discussions with Mr. Cook and this resident, and we're planning a meeting already for the end of January in order to get professional input in this. And I suggested to Director Lanevsky that this would be shortchanging a process that is actually in place. And I would like to simply point out that in the not very distant past, there was a motion that was not allowed to be brought forward here because there was a committee that was designated to handle those kinds of issues. And the motion was not even allowed to be brought forward to the board for discussion. So here we are in a situation where the board president has requested that the finance committee deal with this. The finance committee is moving forward. The finance committee is in the middle of arranging to get some really competent professional input before we jump to any sudden conclusions about this. And I find it simply mystifying that all of a sudden this particular committee no longer appears to have that kind of standing. And there appears to be no reliance on the committee to actually do the work, and instead we're trying to shortchange the entire process through this motion. I'm mystified.
Madam President, there seems to be a lot of mystification on this issue. Perhaps I should move that we postpone this item for a time when there's less mystification.
Is there a second?
Absolutely. Yes.
You get two choices. You can postpone it indefinitely.
Or postpone to a time certain.
Sure.
I'll take it that these folks can work together enough to have it less mystified by the next board meeting.
So your motion is to...
I'm sorry?
Postpone until...
Postpone to a time certain.
Which would be February.
So it has to be determined by the, help me out here, what is an appropriate date to postpone this item to as the finance chair at this moment?
Just a second. Okay. I just have a clarification I need to get from the parliamentarian. If you could just hold that thought. I'm over to you. No.
If she wants to postpone to a time certain, can she make that February? Because
She can make it anytime.
she can make it anytime.
Okay. Okay. Director Fimmel?
Yes, Madam President.
You can make a motion to postpone to a time certain, and you can make that by the February board meeting, which would give Director McAdam and the Budget and Finance Committee adequate time. Is that what you would like to do?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. I got 3 yeses, I got 2 nos. I guess I need clarification. My current question is this better a matter for the Finance Committee, since they're currently moving forth with an effort already for their next meeting? I'm not sure when that is, but is that correct? Or is the alternative to postpone until the February board meeting, which either of those is acceptable to me?
As a point of information, Director McAdam referenced the minutes from the October meeting. When we reconvene, the Budget and Finance Committee reconvene, at that point in time, the members of the Budget and Finance Committee felt that that was inappropriate and that they thought that any policy would be made via the board.
No, that's not. Yeah, they did.
That is what happened. Do you have your minutes from your November meeting? Because that was, I stated that.
Yes.
You know what? We have a motion to postpone
Did she?
to a time certain. Is that correct? Is that what you want to do? And you have to state what that time will be.
Madam President, in the alternative,
Okay.
can it be undetermined and then determined at a future time?
No.
Cannot. Then my motion is that this matter be postponed until the February meeting.
Okay.
That
Is
should
there
provide
a
ample
second?
Yeah, I'll change the second to agree with
You're going to you're seconding the motion? Okay, so there is a motion to postpone the current motion to amend the 2023 budget to include dollars for capital reserve study has been postponed to a time certain of the February board meeting.
Yes.
General Manager Cook.
Madam President, Board Directors, could I, so that we have some direction, could we add in there some wording that says that the Finance and Budget Committee would meet to make a recommendation to the board, whether it be to use Director McAdams' resource or to go through a bid process to do and to find an outside consultant, but that the Finance and Budget Committee comes and says, this is what the recommendation is. And maybe we have that recommendation by the February meeting.
Okay.
Madam President.
Sorry to.
Just everybody hold on. Okay, we already have a motion that's been seconded to postpone to a time certain, which is February 23rd. That gives the Finance and Budget Committee time to meet.
Okay.
At that time, they can pull the motion and present. They have adequate notice time to come forward with a recommendation at that time. So they could actually do both. But at this point in time, what we're doing is we're postponing to a time certain. Secretary Lanevsky.
I can make this easier by withdrawing the motion and letting the board next year.
Whoa. Okay, so there's been a motion to withdraw. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay,
Director.
the board has to vote.
Are you seconding?
The motion to withdraw this motion, correct? Yes,
Thank you.
I am.
Okay. Is there discussion for the motion to withdraw? Is there any discussion? Discussion? Secretary Lanevsky, will you please take a roll call vote on the motion to remove or withdraw this motion?
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiken.
Yes.
Director Collins. Yes. Director Fimmel.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
8-0.
Okay. The motion is 8-0.
4. The withdrawal.
Motion 4.
To withdraw.
I'm not on the mic anyway. Whatever. The motion passes 8-0 to withdraw. All right. Yipesers, stripesers. Okay, announcements. I'd like to start out announcements saying that we will have a special meeting of the board on December 22nd at 9 a.m. here in the Sundial Auditorium to discuss the 2023 budget. I would also like to recognize at this point Polly Corsino, Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager. Could you please come forward and give us an update on the survey?
Good morning, Madam President, Board of Directors. We are very excited. We're about 3 to 4 weeks away for the launch of our 2023 community survey, and it gives all the members, all the active card holders and privilege card holders the opportunity to shape the future of RCSC recreation. So look for that email in your email inbox about January 16th. You have 3 weeks to take the survey until February 6th. If you don't use email, the opportunity to pick up a paper copy will be available at the Visitor Center and at Lakeview Corporate Office. And we hope everybody chooses the opportunity to take this survey. There's about 93 questions. You don't have to take it all at once. Take breaks, come back to it. But we ask that you do your best in filling out and completing the entire survey. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. Directors, do you have any committee or liaison reports? Secretary Wilson, or
Director. I would just like to thank everyone that contributed to our Santa for Seniors. It was an overwhelming success. We are getting ready to deliver all of those gifts that were purchased and brought in for our members, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Madam President, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Byrd, the IT manager, and his staff. They have been working very hard over this past year. They have ordered the $500,000 of equipment, much of which has been installed. They do have a couple of pieces that have not yet been delivered, but will be delivered early in the upcoming months. They've been working very hard to run cables and get the new system set up while responding to active work orders for other IT issues. I think they've done a remarkable job, and I think we are well positioned to enter phase 2 of the technology process in the coming month.
Thank you. I would like to give some time to the outgoing directors for an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Darla Akins. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, well, what? Yes, I do. I would like to take a minute of your time to give a big shout out and a huge thank you to all the members of the community that supported me in the last few years. My first 2 years on the board was an extremely rewarding experience. We had a board that worked together. We were able to agree to disagree at times, but all in all, we respected each other's opinion. I really cannot pinpoint or single out just 1 or 2 encounters or experiences as being the most rewarding. It has all been a learning experience, as it should be, going from the board member exchanges to having 2 board meetings a month, back to the member board exchanges, being a part of the bidding, former GM Janet, a great retirement, and congratulating her on her job well done, to being part of a long process of hiring our new GM, Bill Cook. During my tenure, we were able to make a really good attempt to try and incorporate Robert's rules into our meetings with the help of Ray Ternecki, who I would also like to give a huge thank you to.
Thank you.
Ray was gracious. Thank you. Ray was gracious enough to allow to also volunteer her time to us and help us try to stay on the straight and narrow. For those of you who did not support me or have not supported me over the years, I wish you the best in your endeavors, and always remember the grass is not always greener on the other side. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because I know I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Collins?
Thank you, President Lair, and thank you to everyone that is here on the board for the last 2 years, learning and getting through it little by little. And I would also like to thank Teresa for the shows that she did over the summer and everything. It was fantastic. Do a great job. And I want to reach out to everyone. The 9th of January will be your members' meeting. And I would like to, if the people who were voted in the election, if you could come meet your new board. Come and tell us what your wants are, your needs. We need to hear from you, and not just this group here, but everybody. Come on in and talk to us. We'll have cakes and we'll have things for you that day. Please come in and talk to us and tell us what you'd like to see. This is your new board, and we're here for you, so come on in. Thank you.
Madam President, can we also acknowledge Ms. Busselberger for her fine work in keeping everybody on task?
Bravo.
President Lair and Board of Directors, I just want to kind of end it. This is our last meeting, and just kind of give some good news for the holiday spirit for our foundation. So the holiday celebration was a huge success. We had a new venue. We had the new duck race, and I want to give a lot of props to Teresa and her team, and then the entire staff for the setup we had. It was wonderful. So we generated $5,700 to the foundation. So that's going directly to the foundation. And then secondarily, so actually our Director of Finance, Kevin McCurdy, last year started this relationship with Desert Diamond. And once again, they are going to make a $15,000 donation to the foundation this year again. So great props for initiating that and continuing that relationship. So thank you, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Hey, have a great New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Collins?
I just wanted to say I had a number of people come up to me and say, Bill Cook was having a great time at that festival.
Okay, there being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. Don't forget to turn your cell phones back on, and thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.